Good,
Awesome.
good.
You want to introduce yourself? Tell us about your business.
So I wear many hats, but today we're going to talk about my pride and joy, my personal business, yourbrotherandre.com. I am an attorney by trade, intellectual property, specifically trademark and patents. Born and raised in Detroit, I'm the oldest boy of 10 children. Went to a Big Ten college here in the state of Michigan and had a very unique path. I'm all the way city. I'm from the west side of Detroit.
Hey.
Went to school on the east side of Detroit.
Hey.
During the '80s. So anybody who grew up in Detroit during that time understands the challenges, what it means to be a regular dude from Detroit. So
What high school did you go to?
I went to Martin Luther King.
Okay.
Hey.
You're like, I'm all in
that's
here.
Sweet black and gold.
That's right.
I was about to say, what neighborhood on the west side?
I'm so I have two different neighborhoods, but between Puritan, off of Puritan between Greenfield and Southfield.
Hey, I set up for 7 Mile in Southfield.
Yep. So and then also off of Puritan and Linwood. So
okay.
Yep. So yourbrotherandre.com really highlights the books that I wrote recently, and I worked with teen and young fathers for a long time. So I have some courses coming up for teen and young fathers, but because of my background, my family, when I graduated from law school, my wife had a business law firm. So that's how I got involved in business law, corporate law. She taught me everything I know. She can say that literally when it comes to that. Yep. And so I've always been there, but using my skills and talents to help our community, the Black community specifically. So I decided after years of working in community economic development, I worked for CDFI in Miami, and bringing all this stuff together with the intellectual property, I decided to start writing books. So I wrote a book about specifically because and I don't have my cell phone, I left it back at the table, but we have a lot of people on Instagram and all the social media, and they're showing their logos and they're sending it all over the internet, interstate commerce, but they don't have trademarks. And I wanted to explain how important this is. And I found that in business owners, specifically in our community, they leave that until last. Well, historically, our intellectual property has been stolen.
Right.
And people have made billions of dollars with a B off of our intellectual property. So I wanted to make sure that people who, we're very creative people. Our culture is pop culture. So it's going to be popular in the future. So take advantage of your intellectual property. So I wrote a book, Real Bosses, Protect and Trademark Their Brand. And then I wrote a book about that, incorporated that book along with business formation, copyright information, access to capital, business ethics, the mental and physical health of the entrepreneur, which is very important. We forget, we talk about grind. That's cute until your heart stops.
Right.
Exactly. So
Exactly.
you have to understand that it has to be a balance in your life. So I wrote about that, as well as the spiritual development of the entrepreneur, in my latest book. And then before that, I wrote about the experience me and my friends had at being high achieving high school students going to a Big Ten university coming from Detroit. What that transition and that experience was like during the 90s.
Are you intentionally leaving out the name of the Big Ten University?
Because I do it on purpose, because I don't necessarily, a lot of people had certain experiences in their college.
Right.
I don't think that, though I loved my friends and the experience I went through, I don't think that the administration didn't really love us. Okay. So I don't really try to give them any props.
Okay, awesome. Sounds good. Sounds good. I have thank you for sharing. I have a lot of questions based on the work you do, because intellectual property, I think, is huge for our community, and exactly how you define intellectual property, especially we're in an age where you literally put everything out on social media. That's a part of your business. You can write a dang near dissertation after you catalog everything you've written over the course of 5 years. And how can you say that this is mine, and someone can't come and say, actually, no, it's mine. And I also think about so many thoughts going through my mind. I recently saw a story about, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Mambo sauce. It's like a popular sauce. So I went to Howard.
Oh yeah,
And
Sounds familiar.
in DC, and the story was about essentially how a black man started this mambo sauce, putting it on fried chicken.
Oh yeah,
And essentially somebody else, non-black person, came and trademarked it. And he would be probably a billionaire by now if he would have trademarked it. But at the time, we talk about resources, and we even talk about how do you, when we think about recipes and ingredients and just all those things that go into, I'll call it the intangible part of it. How do we begin to know, or where do we even start with knowing this is property that I should protect?
And it starts with, I mean, if when you create something, right, specifically like a recipe, for example, I mean, it automatically gets copyrights protection when you write it down. But you cannot stop. You cannot call infringement unless you register it with the U.S. Department of Copyright. So you can't stop it. The same with a trademark, right? If this guy was using his mark to make itself distinct in commerce, but he never filed a federal trademark, then you unfortunately that's the way the law is. If somebody does it before you, generally speaking, and you can't protect it. So when should they do it? As soon as possible. Right? As soon as you want to put, because if you think about all the effort and the things that this person will use the mambo sauce, for example, right? And they realize he really had something that was awesome, but he didn't protect the intellectual property. So if he would have done it early on, there is an expense, but what they've done, the United States Patent and Trademark Office, they made it cheap for inventors to do it, or the entrepreneur to do it. They might not know how to do it technically,
right?
But they made it reasonable cost, so the expense is not so much that you can't afford it. But this is what I always say to people, right? I can change the transmission on my car. Like, they got books I can read, so I can go through the book and say, okay, take this nut off and screw this in and take that off, and literally learn how to change the transmission on my car. But do I want to spend 6 months learning how to do that?
Right.
Right. So invest in someone else doing it. And now it's much more affordable than when I started in 2003. Wow. To pay somebody to do a trademark for you. Copyrights are usually cheaper than trademarks. Patent is something different. It's more expensive because of the time it takes to get it.
So you can tell me if this is true or not. I have a friend that works in a similar field. And she said often, I don't know if this is a loophole, but essentially there was, I'll call it a phrase that was used, and someone popularized that phrase, but that person got it from a book. And so there then became this legal battle. But the person who popularized it won because the world became to know this phrase because they made it popular.
Wow.
I'd be pissed if I was if I was the person that wrote it, right? Because we understand that's what happens. That's what happens a lot. But can that happen? Like, yes, I've been working my life off, and maybe I don't have as many people behind me or supporting my product, or maybe it's just statewide, but it's not national or it's not international. And someone comes in and say, "Hey, I'm Miss Popular, and I can take this worldwide, so it's mine now."
Unfortunately, and this is what I told my children as they got a little bit older, there are some people in this world that just don't care about you, right? And there are people in this world that are just crooks, and they will literally steal your invention, steal your property. So yes, it can happen. And one of our, we're talking about Black people specifically, we are generally, and I've lived in different places in the country, but generally every place I've lived, we've been number one in poverty. We've had the lowest household income, average household income. So these type of things of being able to afford legal representation costs money, right? So that's why. So even if the popular person might have had more money to make the legal battle go longer, whereas the person that wrote it in the book just didn't have those funds to go to battle in the legal arena. So that's what happens to us a lot of times.
Yeah.
Right. But there are resources out here now if business owners want to know. And this is why I wrote this book, to make people aware. Right. Because a big problem is we're not aware. Right. So think about the music industry. Right. Think about our most famous musicians, Prince. We'll just use Prince and Michael Jackson. They made a lot of money. Right. But they were still artists. Imagine how much the record companies made off of Prince and Michael Jackson. Right. So they were able to eventually get a lot of their IP rights, but they're unique artists, right? Most artists, they just lose, and these people steal their stuff, right? So being aware is something that I wanted to make sure people were. So I said, okay, let me write a book. And I wrote a book, and I wrote another one, and I'm selling them here. Come check it out. They're on my website, yourbrotherandre.com, and
All right. So yourbrotherandre.com, intellectual property, trademarking, copyright infringement. If you need a lawyer,
well, I'm not. Well, presently I don't practice.